Welcome to Solidarity for Solutions, a podcast by Africans for the Horn of Africa Initiative. I'm your host, Bridget Musungu. Africans for the Horn of Africa Initiative is a coalition of civil society organizations committed to working collectively on the crisis in the Horn. The initiative is led by 4 Pan-African organizations: Atrocities Watch Africa, Pan-African Lawyers Union, African Leadership Center, and International Rights Refugee Initiative. In this episode, I'll be joined by Francesco Bonanome and Alsanosi Adam, and we will explore the current humanitarian situation in Sudan, focusing on the role played by grassroots initiatives like Emergency Response Rooms, ERR. Francesco Bonanome has been serving with the United Nations Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, since November 2020, focusing on field and strategic coordination while supporting sub-offices in South Kordofan, Blue Nile, and Darfur. Between 2020 and 2023, Francesco was the Special Assistant to the Humanitarian Coordinator, a role that he held until the evacuation following the conflict escalation in April 2023. Since July 2023, he is the OCHA's focal point on localization, with a strong focus on fostering collaboration with mutual aid groups, including the emergency response rooms. He holds 2 master's degrees, one in international cooperation from the University of Siena, Italy, and another in African studies from Dalarna University in Sweden. Additionally, he earned a bachelor's degree in international relations and diplomacy from Bologna University, Italy. Welcome, Francesco.
Thank you so much.
Sanosi Adam is the Operational Strategy Lead at the CASH Consortium of Sudan and the External Communications Coordinator for the Localization Coordination Council. Welcome, Al-Sanosi.
Thank you.
So we are here to discuss the crisis in Sudan. I will tell us 5 or so facts of the current situation and give Francesco and Al-Sanosi an opportunity to add to those. So as of September 2024, the International Organization for Migration reported that 10 million people are now internally displaced in Sudan. Approximately 8 million people have been forced to flee within the country, with 9,000 seeking refuge in up to 18 states within the Horn and beyond. Sudan is experiencing severe shortage of food, water, and medicine. And over 26 million people are facing acute food insecurity, with 8 million of them in emergency situations. Up to now, we note that there has been international aid efforts. Those have been hampered by the ongoing fighting, the blockades, and conflicts in different areas. And in response to this, a local initiative was born, and that's the Emergency Response Room. The Emergency Response Room is a youth-led volunteer network that works across the country. And on 3rd October 2024, the Peace Research Institute in Oslo announced a nomination of the Emergency Response Room for the 2024 Nobel Peace Prize. So with those, I would like us to have a discussion and basically give an overview of the humanitarian crisis. If we could start with you, Francesco.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me today. I'll try to be brief. Some of the information that you already provided gives already the perception of a critical crisis that Sudan is living, and as of today, continue to be one of the biggest humanitarian crises and the biggest displacement crisis in the world. Based on the information that we have as of today, we can say that around 25.6 million people currently in Sudan are facing crisis or worse conditions. We have about 750,000 people that are in famine-like conditions across the country, and 10.9 million of people so almost 11 million people are currently displaced across Sudan. Of these almost 11 million people, 8.1 million people have been displaced following the beginning of the conflict in the 15th of April of 2023. Overall, the situation is critical. Access to basic services has become more and more complicated, and with the continuation of the conflict, the deterioration of the environment in which people are trying to survive is getting worse and worse. On top of that, as an international community, we are struggling in providing assistance across the country. Part of these challenges are related to the insecurity of the environment in which we are forced to operate. The active conflict in most of the areas of Sudan are impeding easy movement. And on top of that, we have complicated environments to navigate, which includes negotiation with different warring parties, bureaucratic impediments, delays in the release of visas, travel permits, but also, of course, challenges in navigating different type of scenarios that include both cross-border and cross-line operations. Because of these challenges, the collaboration and the partnership with the new actors, such as the emergency response rooms, has become for the international community a key player and a key factor in ensuring that assistance and delivery of aid would be possible in areas that are still hard to reach and where the international community faced a lot of challenge in being fully operational.
Sanosi, any challenges that Francesco didn't mention?
For us, the local responders, the challenges we face are usually challenges related to securing enough funding for the people on the ground. We have volunteers, people from the ground who most of them are in some way, suffered from this war, but they actually did not lose hope and they wanted to organize and help one another and help themselves and help the communities. And the challenge here is usually one of the biggest one is finding them enough funding to go to the ground so that they could be able to respond. And we don't have issues like organizations, like we don't have access problems because we're there. We're from the neighborhoods. The people are still there, and there is a great structure being built on the ground to kind of support intervention. And I think it's a matter of plugging in for organizations who are trying to support and then use these really infrastructures to actually support the communities in hard to reach areas and even within easy to reach areas.
I would like to take that point on the structures. Do you mind sharing in a little bit of detail how the structures look like when it comes to response during these interventions?
Yeah, so the emergency response rooms is grassrooted, agile, neutral, mutual aid, solidarity movement. That being said, there's lots of principles that we kind of hold very dear: accountability, participation, transparency, and equality. And for those principles came the need to build a structure that doesn't allow room for breaking these principles. So it's a triangle kind of structure. We have a charter that or a constitution that governs the work we do. We have legislatives, and then we have working groups. So we have representatives, legislatives, who are representatives from locality level, state level, and then we have working groups, and these are professional offices. So these structures make sure that the legislators are not actually doing work, or the working groups are also not involved in creating the legislation. So you have a representative from the constituents, which is this like district level, to the locality. They have a council. From these localities on the state, they have a state council, and then we have the LCC, the Localization Coordination Council, members from each state. Adjacent to this, you have the committees. Yeah, you could think of it as ministries or some sort of working groups. So this structure, together with the SOPs, the standard operating procedures for the emergency response rooms, are creating like a smooth response through our accountability system. We call it the F system. It's forms from Form 1 to Form 5 that we use to ask for funding, approve it, and report financially and narrative report through the system we've built. And this goes across to all states in Sudan right now.
Oh wow, that's very interesting. During a crisis like this, usually the most vulnerable in the society, for example, children, people living with disability, women. How do you ensure that whatever help they need gets to them during this kind of situation?
Children are very important in the middle of the response. We have safe children safe spaces supported by the UNICEF through our local partners. And we have the alternative school program also targeting children. And in terms of people with disabilities, I think in the Sudanese community, there is some sense of a cohesion usually in the family. If a family had somebody with disability, they usually get involved and get treated really well. And so like the response we have right now is inclusive of everybody benefiting. Everybody from the neighborhood is benefiting from the support. Also, if they want to volunteer, and we do have volunteers who like they have hearing issues or other type of disabilities who are actually part of the support.
Thank you, Francesco.
As coordination actor, OCHA has been playing a role in facilitating connections between the emergency response rooms and other actors, including INGOs, but also other UN agencies, to try to foresee the possibility for these type of groups to receive additional financial support, but also capacity building with specific focus on different type of intervention that could focus predominantly in assisting the population through the implementation of communal kitchens, but also on other type of interventions such as protection. So foreseeing the possibility of having even technical people from the protection clusters rather than specific INGOs that could actually deliver some support, both from a financial perspective, but also from capacity building and technical perspective. Along the year, and specifically in 2024, we scale up this type of intervention, increasing the financial support to the emergency response rooms, and trying to foresee also new modalities in order to align our type of operation to the work that is also being implemented by other actors, which are also foreseeing the possibility of supporting the ERRs, considering them as a key player, especially in assisting the population in areas in which the vast majority of the international partners and some of the national NGOs as of today still struggle to be fully operational. So overall speaking, as OCHA, of course, we don't implement, we coordinate, but we have been trying to facilitate coordination and facilitate the work of these actors by supporting our partners and making sure that the key players across the international community has been trying to design and support and assist grassroots organization and specifically the ERRs along their process.
Thank you. In Africans for the Horn of Africa, part of our mandate or our efforts are towards African solidarity. Are there Africans who've come from other parts of the continent to offer that solidarity, or have been interested in being part of this initiative? If there are, you could mention. Or if there aren't any, do you see any opportunities? And this question goes to both of you, Francesco and Alsanosi. Any opportunities for, other members of this continent to want to be part of this greater cause?
This is a grassroots solidarity movement in Sudan amongst the crisis. So nobody came. People are having difficulty actually leaving, let alone coming in. So no, there is nobody, but we have had the support otherwise. We had the support through people connecting and reaching out and supporting us, advocating for us. In some cases, people were actually sending small tokens of money, 50, 20, $10. We've got so many different people when they hear about us from across the world, like from Africa, from Tunisia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, asking what can they do to support. And it's just like, it's not an organization. There is more to it than just humanitarian support. There's also building cohesion amongst the Sudanese themselves, the people on the ground, practicing local governance, practicing how to make these decisions and how to manage funds and how to account for everything, to the community. People are reporting openly on Facebook, on WhatsApp groups, to their community, how much money they received, what did they bought with that money, how long it lasted, what could they do better, and people are kind of giving feedback. Elders are engaged now in this response, in so many different beautiful ways. They're not necessarily like making food or lifting things, but they're actually providing some sort of support and protection to the community. If something happened, they are the ones who go and negotiate. We're like halfway to that actual cohesion and creating this solidarity through mutual aid. And now people, when they move to somewhere, they immediately go to this, emergency response rooms and actually say, hey, I'm a pharmacist, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a teacher, and I can do this, I can do that, I can fix electricity, I can, I'm a plumber. So people are just kind of volunteering their services and enlisting within the emergency response rooms. And, they know that, by the time somebody comes to them, it's going to be too late. So they understand that we need to work and build what we have right now. And yeah, we always need the big support to come in. Big organizations like the UN, it's a giant organization that can move at scale, can provide at scale. But by the time they get there, the people are actually paving the road for that.
Thank you. That sounds fascinating as a citizen collaboration and as a grassroots movement. So Francesco, as as OCHA and other UN sort of diplomatic bodies, is there any documentation that's going on? I am looking at a scenario where internationally, as much as information is out there, sometimes people do want specific and nitty-gritty kind of information from like a reliable sort of source. Do you have any efforts around that?
Well, there is for sure. On one side, we have there is some sensitivity around working specifically on this type of collaboration. So I would say that there is, yes, some documentation, but is not something that is necessarily always broadly shared. But it's rather more something that is circulated internally among different actors that are currently involved in this type of operations. But more broadly, as a international community, humanitarian community. There are efforts ongoing specifically on try to revise and redesign the what's called localization strategy, which is basically the global strategy for Sudan on how to engage with a national actor and actually shifting, I would say, the attention and the role of the national actor as at the center of the response. Along this strategy, together with the work with the national NGOs, which continue to play an important role, I would say the biggest element or innovative element of discussion that is currently in place is, of course, the role of the grassroots organization and the mutual aid, which has become more and more predominant since the beginning of the conflict. So I would say this specific strategy is something that currently we are working on, and that will be eventually a document that could be circulated and could have also some visibility. On top of that, we are currently in the process for developing the HNRP, which is the Humanitarian Needs and Response Program. And of course, within this huge program, which analyzes the different modalities for the response, the humanitarian response in Sudan, we are obviously considering also to include a component that focus specifically on assisting national actors, including grassroots organizations. So I would say there's no really per se a document that you could refer for, but more broadly, I would say as a strategy, from a strategic point of view, the documentation that are currently under development and they're looking at the type of strategy and response for the next year, take more and more into consideration the role of these actors and how better the international community can actually work and collaborate with these actors in order to deliver aid also in areas where accessibility at the moment is heavily impacted.
Amazing. Yeah, it's also like asking a lot right now when they're in the middle of a crisis, asking for documentation. And I'll probably explain why I asked that question. It's because when later there's a need for justice and accountability, documentation is an important part of that demand for accountability. I am very intrigued by this initiative, and I'm wondering if either of you have sat and thought if there are ways to enhance this effort or broaden this effort so that aid gets to the places it needs to get to. And it's a hard question, and it's probably not even a fair question at this point in time. If there are any lessons learned or things that could be availed to help the rest of us be part of this solidarity, so to speak.
I mean, when we started this approach, we developed a strategy because back then we were having, trying to prove to the people that actually mutual aid works. Because nobody believed it would. No organization wanted to support us. Nobody wants to give anything. So we needed to build a narrative, the theory of people-led mutual aid, people on the center of it, community-driven, agile, organizing and building structure, system based on good governance according to the people on the ground, not according to an INGO or a donor. Piloting these creative ideas on the ground, what worked, what didn't. That was the first phase. And there we were aiming to raise $100,000. And we did. We raised and spent $100,000 and more. So phase 2 from October to May was here, expanding, scaling now, expanding to Darfur, Sinnar, Madani, to other states, prove that this modality is scalable, maintain the agile, adaptive processes, the culture of honesty, teamwork, and volunteerism, improve faster reporting and finance accountability and planning. creating the Localization Coordination Council. This was phase 2, which is October to May, and the aim was to raise 2.5 million. I think we've raised about $3 million to all these, emergency response on the ground, and we've created the Localization Coordination Council. So it worked. And then phase 3 from June to this December, which is here, we're trying to fine-tune the system, enhance the community accountability, combat corruption if there's any. We combat it immediately and openly, capacity building, volunteer support, increasing community participations, and accepting all these new ideas and new people. And the aim here is to raise 20 million. On paper, we have about 30 million. Phase 4, which should start January next year. Our strategy is to improve the data collection, monitoring, and evaluation and learning, expand to everywhere in Sudan, remaining agile, community-based, mutual aid, and adaptive without registering, without being pushed to be an INGO or an NGO, to just remain our solidarity movement, prepare for post-war peace building, trauma healing, and rebuilding Sudan, and maintaining the local parliaments that we created across Sudan. That's where we are right now. And special thanks to our allies, our supporters across the humanitarian and the development sector, donors, without saying names, donors, INGOs, coalitions, and local organizations alike, standing with the people of Sudan, with the solidarity movement, with mutual aid. And I think we have the potential for a lot more than doing communal kitchens and the current services that we do. But we ask the support, advocacy, to be able to at least do what we know how to do best, to make sure that our people are safe, our people are fed, our people are not falling prey to famine in this current war in Sudan.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I think what stands out for me is the power of local philanthropy, the power of people, innovation of using the tools and resources that a community has to combat a crisis such as this. Francesco, as we wind up, are there any other actions that the international agencies can use to complement initiatives such as ERR, and in particular for the case of Sudan?
Sure. I think overall, as international community, as also Sanusi mentioned, there has been, the trend, I would say, is positive. If we think about how the international community started to engage and when it started to engage with the emergency response rooms and with other mutual aid groups and where we stand today, I think the trend is positive, but there are more things that can be done in order to make sure that actually there is a complementarity with the work that they're doing. One of the things is for sure to make sure that there is a better standardization, I would say, of the response across the different international actors that are working with the ERRs. And in that sense, I think there has been already a lot of discussions, and there's going to be more discussion among the different actors on how to better actually systematize our operations, to make sure that also that we can not only work with together in partnership with this type of actors, but we can also put these actors in the best condition to operate in a very effective way. Another element that, in my opinion, would be very important is, of course, the involvement, and is part also of the strategy, is making sure that there is a better coordination and a better linkages between the technical people that is providing assistance and running the humanitarian response with these actors, because the emergency response rooms, like most of the mutual aid groups, are an incredible resource, not only because they are the first responders in areas where nobody else is capable to respond, but also they are the eyes on the ground in most of the places where nobody else actually is there. So in order to understand the complexity of the conflict, in order to understand the criticalities of certain situations, in order to understand how to prioritize a response, having a strong and a well-placed mechanism in which information can be shared openly between this grassroots group and the international organization would allow not only the emergency response rooms to make the rest of the communities aware about the situation that they're facing, and this might lead also to additional funds, additional support, but also would allow the international community to be capable to understand better and in a deeper way what is the current situation in some areas of the country where nobody currently is capable to have visibility on a regular basis. And this would allow a better prioritization and obviously a better response from the international partners. And this, I would say, kind of a connection, of course, comes together with a better capacity of communicating, reporting, monitoring a certain type of situations. So all these synergic approaches, I think it's something that as international community, we need to do better. I think there has been huge progress in the last year, which has been also reflected by the fact that more funds has arrived to the emergency rooms, and there has been a more and better well-placed mechanism that in order to facilitate the work of these actors. But of course, I mean, this is a process that is in development, and we are a little bit learning by doing. So I think there are additional steps that needs to be take place, and I think as international community we have a responsibility in trying to enhance this type of modality, which is not only proving to be effective, but in my opinion is also proving that a bottom-up approach in Sudan can function and can be very effective, especially during critical times like the one that we are currently facing.
Thank you. As we wind up and close, I'd like to thank you both for being here and sharing with us and sharing this fascinating and yet very necessary initiative and allowing us to offer solidarity. Alsanosi, do you have anything else to say in closing?
Just lots of thanks to all the support we've been getting since we started, whether it's an individual support, whether it's through Sudan Humanitarian Fund, whether it's through the Cash Consortium GCTs, whether it's through flexible funding. It's all needed. It's all important, and we really hope to, be able to support our people on the ground in Sudan to protect our volunteers, to protect civilians. We hope that more and more food goes in, actual food, and also more and more cash go to the ground so they can together, respond to the famine. There's no talk anymore about prevention. It's just response now, and I think this is where we're at, and we urge the world to stand behind us, to support us, so that we can achieve the goals we've set.
Thank you, Francesco. Any parting word?
Well, I don't have much else to add. I think just to conclude from my side, I think it's what the emergency response rooms have been doing along this year and a half of conflict has been remarkable, and not only the attention that they're getting is the proof that actually this is really meaningful, but I think if today still there is hope and if there is actually a capacity and of responding in some areas of the country is because grassroots organization and communities in Sudan were capable to self-organize themselves and really lead the assistance in areas that are extremely difficult. So, I mean, from my side, I'm just amazed all the time about the work that these groups are doing, and I think as international community we have a responsibility to enhance and and support this type of initiative because they are at the center of the response. And if we really believe in this idea of localizing the response and bringing the capacity back to the people of this country to assist their own people, I think what the emergency response drones are doing is a perfect example of that, and therefore it should be supported. So, and for the rest, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to have this type of conversation.
Thank you. We hope we can call on you for further discussions and to find out areas of intervention. And thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. For more information about Africans for the Horn of Africa, follow us on our handle at AA4HA on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, or visit our website www.africansforthehorn.org.